I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hey everyone, welcome to Snowpiercer, episode 6. We are beyond excited to get started and talk about this episode. So many amazing things, anxiety, everything is here this week. I am Rachel Goodman, and joining me today, we've got our special guest, Lena Hall. You can see her as Miss Audrey on Snowpiercer. She's a Tony winner. She's been in Hedwig and Kinky Boots. Lena, welcome to the show today.
Hi, thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
Yeah, we're so excited. And we've got Trina too, our Snowpiercer enthusiast.
Hello, what's up everybody? Hi Lena, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, of course, Lena and Trina.
Yeah. And we've been commenting on your background, Lena. We absolutely love it.
Gosh.
So,
it looks so cool on screen too. I'm looking at it.
I might change it to something.
Ooh.
It's amazing. Yeah. So we're going to dive in here. For everyone watching, Trina is in the chat. So if you have any comments throughout, if you want to ask Lena any questions, we're going to be doing a segment near the end where we ask Lena questions. So whatever questions you have, feel free to share them. We will ask them during that segment. So let's go ahead. We're going to dive right in here. We get to the start of, everything that's been happening. Crazy amount of tension here. I really enjoyed the setup where we get a little bit of Bennett. We get to see Layton waking up from being in the drawer. Just seeing, I feel like where we were going with this, it was very crucial that we got some of these earlier reactions. Trina, what are your thoughts on that and the way that they opened up episode 6?
I'm glad that they opened up that way, because when episode 5 ended, I felt like I needed to know everything. And so we jumped right into it in episode 6. So I was happy, but also I think other than maybe the amputation scene, this episode had me the most anxious of all of them so far, because the way that Layton was acting was just making me my heart was palpitating.
Yeah. And so Lena, as someone who's on the show, what is it like for you when you watch openings like this? Obviously, it's different seeing it as opposed to filming it. Are you feeling the anxiety the way that we are with these opening scenes and not knowing what's going to happen exactly?
No.
No. Okay. Good to know.
Yeah, I guess I feel anxiety because I'm like, when am I on? I don't know. So long ago, I'm like, what scene was this? I can't remember. And then when I watch the scene, that I filmed, I'm like, oh yeah. And then I'm remembering all the fun that we had on set and remembering what it was like to film that specific scene. But for me, I know everything that's gonna happen. So there's kind of no mystery in it. And so I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I remember this happening. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Quite a while ago. And it's
jogging the memory.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I feel like a great place to start with this, I feel like there were kind of 2 moments of this episode. There's before the malfunction and then during and everything and all the craziness happening during that. So before we get to the malfunction, we actually had a lot with Zara, and I actually feel really badly for her because here she is. There are people, obviously she still loves Layton. At least that's how I'm viewing this.
Yes.
We have a head shake here, Trina. Or were you, was that like an agreeing head shake or like,
that
no?
Was, yes. No. That was me agreeing, but hating, I was like, girl, stop. Don't do it. That's
and it's interesting because, I just want to say this too. I just saw The Rental this last week, which just premiered. The actress who plays Zara was actually in The Rental. So it's very interesting seeing these different roles. But kind of getting back to Zara though, I really feel awful for her, but at the same time, we can't forget that she chose to leave the tail end of the train. What, Lena, how has it been? So I guess my question is, kind of twofold here. When you watch it and you see Zara, and how does it feel to watch someone like Zara with Miss Audrey, based on what we've seen Zara do and how her feelings are for Layton?
Well, she knows, Miss Audrey knows everything. So
Okay.
from Zara's past, Miss Audrey knows. She knows their history. She knows all about it. She knows about the pregnancy way before, like
Yeah.
she just has a sense for it. She's very intuitive, and so Zara made a really tough decision to leave the love of her life behind and come upstream for a better life, or what she thought was going to be a better life. And then, having had to confront someone that she maybe thought she would never see again, like that's tough, because it's like, it's like, in very simple terms, imagine ghosting someone that you had been with forever, and then all of a sudden seeing them and having to explain yourself.
Yeah, no, not fun.
Well,
she's in a tough spot, but also it's like she also made the decision to leave. So, so it's one of those really like kind of middle line moral decisions that you can see both sides of, understanding, oh, she couldn't do the tail anymore. Like she really wanted to get out of that hellhole. And then on the other side of it, it's like, oh, but she, she had, her husband was back there, the love of her life. And, we don't get to see the backstory of everything that had happened up until she left, or what the catalyst was for her to leave, other than knowing that it was just awful back there. But Layton and Josie are close, and maybe that was happening while she was back there. Maybe she escaped away from that pain. Like there's a lot to unpack between them, and also including Josie. So everything kind of complicates the decisions, and so it's literally one of those things where it's like there's no right decision, there's no wrong decision, there's just a decision. So
yeah.
someone is going to be hurt no matter what.
Now, Trina and Lena, my thought too was that with Miss Audrey, she seemed to be very accepting of all of this. Like instead of giving Zara a hard time about the pregnancy, she seemed accepting, considering what was happening. And so to me, it seemed like a very open relationship, and they were very respectful of one another. So I was taking it to be very, like, considering the circumstances, they sort of had to react the way that they were reacting.
Right. Well, Miss Audrey is, again, like a very empathetic person, and she took Zara on to come and work in the night car. Like she chose Zara to come and work in the night car because she sees that Zara possesses what one needs in order to do what the night car requires, which is there's a lot of like therapeutic work that is not for the faint of heart, and so I mean, imagine having there's not a lot of people, so your friends that you choose, or the people you choose to surround yourself with, are it's a very limited number of people, because there's not a lot of people on board. Not everyone's great. Like everyone gets along with everyone, so you choose your people very, very carefully and very wisely. And I think and I think that like the whole third class having to draw straws in order to have kids, because it needs to be the population needs to be absolutely controlled, or else the whole system will collapse. You can't have too few kids, and you can't have too many kids. It has to be just right. So the fact that she drew a straw in order to have a kid is like a huge deal, because like that is beyond an honor in and of itself. Everyone else is desperately wanting, to have something that they can't have, which is kids, that people that they're not allowed to have. There's not that freedom, right?
Yeah.
Also, in the
Mhm.
jail, they sterilize everyone back there, so
Yeah.
you can't have kids, right? They sterilize the women, so it's like, yeah, so third class to draw a straw in order to have a kid is like awesome. But then, of course, the other
Mhm.
side of that is, what is this child going to have to do in order to survive on a train? And is it going to be a good life? And probably not, because they're, whoever is born in third stays in third. It's kind of like, it's tough to
Yeah.
get out of the class that you are locked into. So, and first and second, I think, can willy-nilly do whatever they please, and that's where the injustice comes in, because money doesn't matter, and power, that shouldn't matter, but you know, but for some reason money matters on the train.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I mean, it's interesting to me. What really speaks to me about not only the show but the movie as well is this, like you said, Lena, the idea that if you're in a class, it's very hard to move up, or it's very hard to move up. You're pretty much stuck where you are. And I love the message that's speaking about life, and how how it is for people even in a non-dystopian reality, where people are stuck in the circumstances that they've been given for the most part. And it's very hard to climb out of where you are.
Right.
Um, One thing I want to talk about too before we get to the malfunction
Mhm.
is Melanie going to the third class. I love that very few people know who she really is. Trina, what are your thoughts on, one, Melanie just in general, but two, her going to the third class and pretty much saying, hey, if you don't stop this nonsense, Mr. Wilford is going to start killing people.
Yeah. I said this last week too. It's shocking to me that people just listen to this person because she has like a piercing look in her eyes and she says the words Mr. Wilford, and suddenly like everyone, but people in, third class don't react that way all the time and how they normally do. And so I think it's interesting that she thinks she's shaking everybody up, but I don't think she is anymore, as much as we've perceived it to in previous episodes. So, as we've seen also through this episode, people are doing things behind her back. People know a lot more than she thinks they do. And it's getting sketchy for her.
It is.
Well,
Yeah. And it's, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lena.
even the people who did like respect the rules in third class, they have lost their respect for Mr. Wilford because of the reversal of of the uh the
With
guilty.
LJ.
Right.
With LJ. So the reversal of the sentence, or the lightening of the sentence with LJ, then they've lost their respect for him. So these words are kind of falling on deaf ears.
Right.
Absolutely. And
As they
I think,
should.
and it's crazy as I'm watching this, it just, it's so interesting how some moments of this episode, but the show in general, kind of speak to some of what's not just been going on recently, but what's been going on, even in the last 20, 30 years, in terms of people getting fed up with the way certain things at the top are going on. So it's interesting to me that we're seeing, the spirit of the people in third class, and how people really like, they are only going to buy into an illusion for so long before deciding that they're not going to take the way things are happening anymore.
Right.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. So one other thing, so we have Layton actually finding Josie, which I thought was nice, but it also complicates things because we know, like, I actually was thinking for a while that we were going to see Layton get back with Zara much more quickly than what we're seeing now. So I think this is very interesting because we know that there's a baby on the way, at least one baby. And now he's back with Well, really back with Josie. They weren't broken up or anything, but back with her in the sense of physically back with her. And so, yeah, it's not only with everything going on with the social structure, but also between Josie and Layton. I was wondering if he was going to tell her what happened with Zara. I'm Lena, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Lena, you go. You know too much.
It's
yeah.
I mean, it's so complicated, and also Audrey doesn't know anything about the baby.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't know that, and I think, you know, it was one of those things that it's like you see an ex that you were so in love with, and the chapter is not closed. The book hasn't ended. There was no final thing. They were, you know, it was a tough breakup or a tough separation, but like to see someone who has that much history, you know, and you're in this room and you're remembering when you loved each other, you know, of course.
Right.
That and also he's been in the tail, like in the dark, and like is experiencing all this shit for the first time, and is now like he's probably got so many emotions that he can't control it. He cannot, like, you cannot control that. It's like, you know, a puppy discovering like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, you know, it's like,
yeah.
so for him to be put in that situation, it's like, oh, maybe he was in the old world, like thinking that and reliving that and wanting to relive it. I don't think it was I definitely don't think it was like a dig on Josie. I know he, you know, we know that he was always trying to get back to her and back to the tail. Like he really believed that he could get back to the tail after he was done solving this crime. He didn't realize that once he was taken out of the tail, it would be nearly impossible to go back, as more of a controlling move on Melanie's part. But yeah, I mean, it was just like a moment of remembrance, a moment of oh, this was my old life.
Yeah. And to your point too, he literally was remembering his old life at this point and kind of seeing it again. So I can see how he would be transported back. And it isn't like he broke up with Zara, or she broke up with him rather, for because of each other. It was because of everything else externally happening to them. So yeah,
circumstance.
it is. Yeah. So it is very hard. I wonder when it's going to come out fully. And I don't know that Josie would really care, but the baby might complicate things.
As they do.
As they do. So, all right, we'll come back to Layton in a second, because there's a couple more things to touch on with him and Josie. But at him, Josie, and then Dr. Peyton, we'll talk about at the end. Before we get there, let's talk about the train. So I was watching this episode, and I had to watch a few times. Like I had to go back and like watch those scenes to kind of catch what was happening. From what it sounds like, it was some kind of goo that leaked out and it dripped into the wiring. And so that was kind of the first problem, and it caused a short in the engine. And so from there, that's where we're getting this whole crazy, suspenseful, and like so much anxiety in these scenes, where we have, one, it was going to be like obviously Melanie going out and fixing it, but I actually I didn't think that Layton was actually going to kill her. Trina, what did you think about that?
You never know on this show or shows like this when people are going to get killed off. And so I was like, they wouldn't kill Jennifer Connelly, would they? And then, so you have to, really think you're never going to have an answer until either it does or doesn't happen. But I thought he was going to for sure hurt her. And then Bennett's character was going to have to figure out how to fix the train on his own. We knew the train wasn't just going to blow up and everybody was going to be over. We knew that wasn't going to happen. But I thought she was for sure going to get hurt until, she spilled the tea on him about what she claims is really going on. Whether I believe that's what's really going on, I do not know. But I did think she was going to get hurt with that scalpel or whatever that was.
It's hard to believe her, isn't it?
It's so hard. Yeah, I don't know. Because she's claiming, I mean, here's the thing. I would like to believe that her intentions are good and that she's sparing these people so that they'll wake up in a time where they can, you know, inhabit the earth again. But I don't buy it. Especially with people like Layton. She would have told him the truth, I feel. Like if it was, she wouldn't have just put him under. She literally said to him before she had him drink that shot, 2 episodes ago, she literally said, "You know too much." That is not someone that you're saving for the future.
I don't know. She's pulling the biggest joke on everybody. I mean, she's pretending to be, the great and powerful Oz, basically.
Yeah.
And it's, so why would we believe anything that comes out of her mouth, especially since she puts on a different face every time she talks? So I just don't buy it.
Yeah, I find it hard to believe her too, but I will say this. To me, she is the great and powerful Oz because that's exactly what he was. He was, this big, person. And then when you, draw back the curtain, he's just a man. And just not that, yeah, exactly. So I feel like it's the same concept. I keep thinking of Wizard of Oz with this.
Oh,
not to be confused with Officer Oz.
Yeah, not to be confused with him. We'll talk about him in a second too. Yeah.
He's different.
Yeah. Lena, is there any insight you can give us into Melanie as a character?
Well, she's very complicated, but she's very, very intelligent, and she does have the desire to save humanity. So if you think of all of her decisions that she's making are made from a place where she's trying to save as many people as she can, and so be it if there's a few, but it's like saving, basically she's trying to save the world that's left over. And that's a lot of pressure. And so using Wilford as a way to keep people in line and have order is important, because if things are up to anyone and just willy-nilly, like, people are going to ravage the train. Essentially, there has to be some kind of purpose, and there have to be laws, and while they're so stringent that it doesn't really affect the passengers fairly, she did keep it in place for a reason. I mean, if she had a better idea than Mr. Wilford's, probably would have instated it earlier and said it was his plan, but she didn't change anything. She kept the motors running as the way that they're supposed to, and that worked for a while. But now people are unhappy. They're seeing that they're not getting treated fairly. Enough has happened on the train that people have come out of their shells of complacency, and now they're ready to change something. They're ready to fight for some equality on the train. So, in one sense, Melanie is actually saving humanity. And in the other sense, she had an opportunity to bring equality to the train and didn't. And so she let it get to this point. So, it's really on her how she did this, because she does have the most power on the train. She is the engineer. She did build the train. Like, it is her train. So she definitely could have used that from the very start, and instead sat behind this like Wilford guy, thinking that that's how people would accept the situation. But she forgot that maybe his rules weren't good for the long haul. So
and that's very interesting too, in the sense that I feel like sometimes Melanie as a character has both put herself into humanity and inserted herself as a worker among the people, but she's also removed from humanity at the same time. And I think that's the problem, is that we get these moments with her where I actually like her, but then we get these other moments where she's very withdrawn and she's just not getting it, and she's doing things that don't serve the greater good. But I also understand that it's a train that has to work at exactly in a certain way, or people will die. I understand that too, but it's just, I don't know yet if I like Melanie or don't like her, because there are so many moments where I don't, and then she'll do things and I'm like, okay, maybe she is someone that we can like, but it's very hard at this point. What I do like is that at the end, we can, at least in my opinion, she's not, even all the bad things that she has done, she doesn't need to take credit for the good that she does either. Like at the end where she walks in and we've got Bennett and he's in third class and he's talking about how like he is the image of the group that saved the train, and Melanie's there and doesn't really say anything, and she's not taking credit for this enormous feat that she did, which was somehow crawl under there and actually, get the just plug in the
that
necessary
one
wire.
that one
Yeah. But I want to go back to Miss Audrey, because we get a very interesting conversation between her and Melanie, where Miss Audrey basically says, fine, like for now, this malfunction has served as like a renewed hope for the third class, but you just better wait because they're not done yet. There's going to be something else that causes them to want things to change. Lena, that scene must have been must have been amazing to film, I'm guessing, based on like it comes off so powerfully.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was definitely fun. The cool thing is it's like pointing out that you can distract a cause for a certain amount of time, but it will always come back to haunt you, no matter how much you try to like put a Band-Aid on a giant wound. It's not gonna hold together for long. So essentially it's like, I know the truth, and I know that the train was about to like dismantle. Like I know what happened. I do know what happened, but also like, so we're still here. So now let's talk about the real issue. It's like, just because you saved us, just because Mr. Wolford saved us, right? Which is what kind of implying. Because Mr. Wolford saved us doesn't mean that he's a good person, and doesn't mean that this is right. So, she's definitely on task. Like Miss Audrey is on task. She's not gonna bob and weave from what she needs to accomplish, because right now, she wants justice for the people who work the train, who do all the work, who make all the food, who run everything, who clean everything. It's like, how come we're the ones who do everything? We're the ones who should be up and first. It's like the first treated as tailies, because they don't do anything but complain, and like, and so it keeps her on task, because she can really kind of see through all the theatrics as well, because she is the theatrics on the right? So when she sees it happening, she knows how to, she can see through bullshit, essentially.
Right.
Yeah. And she does seem to be the voice of reason. Like the voice of the people, really. Trina, what are some of your thoughts on that?
I love that she is the only one that we get to see kind of look Melanie back in the eyes and just say, I see you, girl, for who you actually are. And back to what you were saying, Rachel, about her, like Melanie's likability. We only like her when she's in an MIT t-shirt in her room. But otherwise, we do not like her because she's not real outside of that small amount of time. And that's obviously what Miss Audrey sees too. Like Miss Audrey sees everything that we as the viewers see.
Absolutely.
Sorry, jumped out. But yeah, so that's sorry. So
extra emphasis.
Exactly, blackout. But that is what I think, and I love this. I love the Miss Audrey character. It's probably my favorite character in the show, just because, stick it to her.
Yeah. And Miss Audrey's not afraid. And that is such,
right.
I love seeing characters like that, especially in this world where there are so many things for the characters to be afraid of when they don't know where their next meal is going to come from. And or they're stuck with protein bars, which from the movie, I know what those really are. I won't say in case, someone hasn't seen the movie, but
right.
I love seeing characters like that really stand up to the person in charge.
Yeah, well, I mean, what do you have to lose at this point?
Nothing.
Everything you had known and loved is gone. Now you have the things that you grasped for on this train that are trying to sustain you. And Miss Audrey is just like holds everyone's tragedy and their pain. She holds everything on her shoulders. So for her, the weight of what she does, it would be pretty much essentially a lot less if she was in the tail. So, the only thing that she would lose is her beloved lipstick and makeup, this clothes. But she would make do and figure it out, like back there. She is, and she won't change that. So for her to stand up to Melanie, who's actually a colleague, they were both brought to the train by Mr. Wilford. So they, are friends. So she knows Melanie better than most. And I think that she has a better understanding of like, what are you doing? What's going on? Like, why are you being like this? I know you're better than this. You are so much better than and it's like maybe you've lost touch with the reality of the situation, or maybe you've lost touch with your humanity or with your morality, or maybe you're kind of being drunk with power right now, and it's like you got to do something about this and snap out of it. So for Miss Audrey, she knows Melanie and is just kind of like it's shit together. Like, so I mean it's an important relationship, and I love their relationship while it's combative, and there is a bit of a it's not a rivalry, but it is they're at odds with each other. Even though that is the case, they've known each other for a very long time. They were they were acquaintances before the train ever happened through Mr. Wilford. So there is a mutual respect, and that doesn't go away, but we're having a hard time seeing eye to eye. And I love my character.
So good.
Mainly because
and no, that's really important to know too, that putting in that perspective, you see the dynamic between the two of them a little more clearly. So, all right, with the time that we have left, the only other thing I really want to mention is just, we didn't really touch on Till too much. I just want to really quickly just touch on the fact that Till and Oz seem to have shared a moment. And I don't know if I read into this the wrong way, because maybe it was just a moment because they thought they were dying.
I don't know. You're talking about the handhold on the
handhold, and then when she went back to Jinju and said, "I'm different now, and I've been through things." I mean, she could have meant other things as well, but
yeah. I don't know. I think it's because they hate each other so much at the moment, and since they were so battling it out the entire episode, and then when it was almost the end, what they thought was the end, they grabbed on whatever they had, and I think it was more embarrassment maybe than actually having a moment, because now they live on and they have to remember what it feels like to hold hands. I don't really see. I mean, I don't think so. I hope not. I don't like him.
Right now he does not seem like the best character, but I feel like Oz, I'm hoping, and this is kind of prediction-y, but I'm just gonna say I hope that Oz kind of turns into more of a likable character that started off bad and is now kind of good. I don't know, we'll see
how he redeems it.
I doubt it, but that's very positive of you, Rachel. I don't know.
I don't know. We'll see.
Sam, the guy who plays Oz, such a fabulous person. So
oh,
to watch be something.
Shout out Sam.
Yeah.
And Mickey's awesome too. I mean, this cast is incredible. I just love everybody in this cast, and I always forget what we filmed and I didn't get, you don't get to see what everyone else is filming. Although I already got to see all the episodes, so that's why it's not new to me because I already watched the whole thing. But like to see the amazing cast is just like super cool. It's like one of the best casts for me.
For sure. I mean, how emotionally strongly we react to all of these characters, it's just a testament to how great everyone's acting is.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah.
You wait.
Okay.
when we were watching the episodes, my husband and I, we were watching the episodes together before I went to go film season 2. So we've already filmed season 2. We're waiting to film. To stop before we finish 9 and 10.
Yeah.
But so I already know what's going on in season 2, which is awesome. And so when my husband and I were watching season 1, like the first episode was like bang, and we were like, wow, that was awesome. And then the second episode came and it was like, okay, this is good. And then the third one lagged a little bit. I was like, okay, they're probably doing a lot of, it's like story setup. It's like setting up everything. And then 4 came around. I was like, okay, slowed down again. And then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is just going to be like, pow. It like,
wow.
picked up pace at 5 and it's just going to go like a freight train.
Freight train.
Well, that's very appropriate then. Yeah.
On brand. We love to keep it on brand.
Yeah. So that is amazing. I'm so excited now and very happy that there's going to be a season 2 and that we have episodes to look forward to. Let's go ahead and dive into our special segment, which is our interview portion with Lena Hall.
Yay! So we just have a couple questions for you. Anybody in the chat, last minute, if you all want to chime in and ask a question, please. I'm sitting here. But one thing we really want to know, we are huge fans of you here at AfterBuzz, and we would like to know what the difference is for you from acting on stage and performing on stage versus a show like this.
Well, first of all,
aside from the obvious.
Theater, you tell the story from start to finish every night.
Mm-hmm.
It's well rehearsed. You rehearse like crazy, and then you get on that stage and you have a live audience. You have feedback, immediate feedback, so you can tell if you're like really like nailing it or like really and even then you don't even know because sometimes you'll have a really quiet audience, and then at the end of the show they're like, wow, and you're like, oh, really? Okay. But so live theater is interesting because you do the same thing every single night and the audience response is what's different. Right? Besides like little things, little hiccups or whatever, the audience response is what's different. So the audience becomes this like fourth character in the show. It's, and so for TV film, you get a script, you do a table read, and after that table read, then they just keep changing the script. So it's not set in stone. So no matter how much work you do beforehand, you're never prepared for when you get on set to film your scene because they will have maybe done rewrites the night before. So let's say the trial scene in when was the trial? The trial was 5, right? In episode 5, the trial, I had that monologue in the trial. And I was like, I'm a good little actress. I am going to learn this and I'm going to nail it in one take. Like, it's going to be amazing. And I learned it and learned it and learned it. And I had it down. And then the night before, they sent me an entirely different monologue. That had some things from the old monologue. So I was like, oh my God. Oh my God, what am I going to do? So then that morning I was like, like trying to remember and this and that and the other. You don't get really any rehearsal. It's much more like, okay, sit there. And then you're just like living through the words and trying to make sense of it and trying to make good choices in the moment. What's about TV film is it's catching your brain think it, and which is it's engaging. So whereas with a Broadway show, you could just like run your lines like and have no thought because it's so like over and over again. There's other ways to be engaged when you're doing a Broadway show. With TV film, the scenes are so new and so, weird, and there's so much going on. It takes so much to just focus in and like get it right, essentially.
Yeah.
That's what you're seeing. You're seeing this drive, and you're like, God, don't make any mistakes. Don't make an ass out of yourself. Like, oh my God. And I like that. I mean, I think it's really interesting because it certainly keeps you on your feet. It keeps you thinking. I mean, you have to memorize things so fast, and it's a whole other muscle. So, I mean, I love doing both ways. Also, another big thing with TV is that you film out of sequence. So
Right.
you don't get to tell the full arc of the story. You actually go in bits and pieces all over the place. And the only thing that it's like per episode, but even that, like, we would film 2 episodes at once with one director. So you'd go back and forth between the 2 episodes. So even that was, different, and
yeah.
And it's tough because you have to remember where you were before, or you have to be like, all right, I need to remember what I'm doing now so that when I film the scene before it, I can emotionally match what's here. And like, it's like a puzzle piece. It's
right.
Wild. It's totally wild. And totally great for your brain.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, we hope to keep seeing you on all of those avenues, of course. We're running short on time, so I have one really important question for you.
Yes.
So we've been talking on the show about which class we would be in if we were on the train and got to choose. So I want to know for you, Lena Hall, which class would you choose to be in?
I would be in the night car. There is
okay.
in the middle. I would be Miss Audrey 100%. There is no I want to be. I would never want to be in the front. I would never want to be in the back. I mean, her situation specific is like the way to be on the train. Because she's like, she's like Cher, right? She's like the most famous person on the train other than Mr. Wilford. And she has all those perks of knowing everyone. She has the perks of knowing everyone's secrets. She's dead center in the train. So also geographically, it's awesome because you're kind of close to everything. What can you do? I would be no class.
I think that's the right answer. I think I changed my answer to that answer. So thank you.
Yeah, that was great. And I mean, that makes a lot of sense too. So, okay, with the time we have left, just Trina, let's just talk about our predictions really fast. Yeah, I know it's a hard question.
I think Layton's gonna lose his whole mind. Even more so than now. We didn't really touch on him, but he was really freaking me out this episode with all of his thoughts just kind of all over the place. He is unraveling before our very eyes, and now he has more info that may or may not be true. So that's just going to make him spin out even more. So I'm hoping he stabilizes a little bit, but I kind of don't see it happening. And I want to know more about the tailies. I want to know what the heck they have going on down there, because it's not just people, randomly dying and then us saying goodbye. Like, I need to know more about what's going on. And Lena, I know you know, because you opened your eyes a little bit at me, and I know you know that there's stuff coming. So I can't wait to find out.
Okay, so my thought is kind of going off what you're saying about Layton.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of the movie. I love the show too, but the movie, I remember what happened at the end, and it was not, I'm not going to ruin it again in case anyone has not seen the ending, but there's something based on the preview that we saw next week with Layton saying, hey, we should be able to take them if we go now and do X, Y, and Z. I just get the feeling that if they're kind of going to go and use some of what happened in the movie, that there might be certain things that end up being very successful with what they do at the cost of certain lives. So I think that we are going to lose a lot of people that we know. And I would love to see where they're going in terms of the climate change, because something they worked a lot with in the movie is at the end, there was a difference in terms of, this is definitely spoiling the ending of the movie, and I'm so sorry. But at the end, Earth was inhabitable again. So I'm wondering if the show is going to touch on that at all. If they are, maybe they won't. Maybe they're just going in a completely,
What is that? I can't see it. I can't see it.
Polar bear.
Oh. Yeah, that's exactly how they knew, because they saw the polar bear and the two kids were able to walk out and they were fine. So I'm just wondering if that's where they're going.
I knew I had to do, I got the job, which was great. But I knew I had to do the show because of the ending, because polar bears are my spirit animal. I was
That's amazing. Oh.
What a sign.
Yeah. Well, I would be so happy to see the polar bears again in the show. So
polar bears in general.
Exactly. Bring on the polar bears. Well, Lena, this was a blast having you on the show. Yeah. Thank you again. And where can everyone find you?
You can find me on social at Lena Rocker Hall, and also on YouTube. Just look for Selena Wiener. I know that's weird. Also, just look up Lena Rocker Hall. I'm all over the place. You can Google Lena Hall. I have a website, lenahall.com. Easy peasy. I do things all the time.
Yes. Awesome. And Trina, where can everyone find you?
Y'all can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Hey Trina Dong, and we will link to all of Lena's links in the section below as well.
Awesome. Absolutely. And you can find me at either at Rach Goodman, which is all my acting stuff, or you can find me at Rachel Radner, which is all of my author stuff, anywhere that social media exists, just to make it easy. This has been our show for today. Thank you everyone for tuning in. We'll see you next Monday, same time, same place.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.